Do you want to sort of talk a bit about being brave and actually just making the film you want to make, not the film you think you should make?
I really just love metaphors in art, and like I studied art histories. I want my films to feel like a Renaissance painting, because I feel like the films that I love best are the ones that I feel have a lot of soul in it. It's a pretty unique way of making films for 48, but I think it's starting to shift because a lot more people are just creating really beautiful pieces of art, and like I don't think I'll ever change my style of filmmaking. Just love to make pretty films.
Kia ora koutou, my name's Ruth Corver. I'm one of the national managers for the Vista Foundation 48 Hours. I'm here today with veteran 48-hour entrant Molly Doyle.
Hello.
Kia ora, Molly. How's it going?
Good, how are you?
I'm good. Shall we just start with getting you to introduce yourself?
Yeah, kia ora, I'm Molly. I am a 23-year-old filmmaker from Pōneke, and I have been making films since I was about 8 years old.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, what was your first film?
It was a film with my younger cousin, and it was a play on Taylor Swift's Safe and Sound song. Made it with my two friends, and yeah, we just had someone come kidnap my cousin and lock her in a barn, and that was it. So that was my first film.
Oh my God. And so what are you doing now? You said you're 23, so you're quite young. Are you working professionally? Are you studying?
Yeah, so I'm freelance in the film industry. I've been working on sets and crewing and directing my own stuff. So for the last 6 months, I've fully gone freelance again. About to start directing a docu-series and doing a lot of short-form content for NGOs and climate NGOs. Yeah.
Wow, awesome.
Yeah.
Have you got any kind of particular projects we should look out for, or things you can tell us about?
I actually completed a short film at the start of the year called How We Say Goodbye, which keep your eyes out for because it'll be released at some point this year. And then the docu-series will hopefully come out towards the end of the year, and it's about public housing in New Zealand. So have a look out for that because it'll be really, really educational and informal.
Awesome. And so making films is your full-time job now?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah.
Awesome. Congratulations.
Thank
It's
you.
kind of a really amazing milestone.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. I think it's hard, but it's worth it.
Oh.
Yeah.
So let's go back to obviously 8 years old, right back at the start. But we're obviously here to talk about 48 Hours. So when did how does 48 Hours sort of fit into, your next steps in terms of filmmaking and making films at school?
Yeah, so I had made films growing up, absolutely loved it. And then I went into high school and joined the media program at school. I would have done my first 48 Hours when I would have been in year 11, I believe. And I was in quite a big team. And I didn't have a massive role, but I really, really loved it. The year afterwards, no, that must have been year 10. That must have been year 10 actually, because in the year afterwards I didn't do it, and I had worked and done a short film competition called the Roxy 5, and I made a short film for that, and then ended up doing quite well in that, so I got to recreate my film. And then I just fell in love with filmmaking after that experience. It was a pretty crazy experience. I fully funded the remake of a film. So I got to go edit at Park Road Post and have a professional crew come out and refilm it, which was pretty surreal for, I would have been 14, 15.
Yeah.
So after that, I was like, okay, got to do 48 Hours next year. And I had a team. We were in year 12, a bunch of my friends, some really cool people. And I can't remember the name of the film. And it's not on the screening room, so I can't find it. But it was such a cool weekend. We stayed in the school's marae. Everyone was there working together. It was real cool. It was about a guy running for a spaceship.
Oh, I know the film,
Yeah.
and it's he's got a ticket. And
Yes.
the world's ending.
Yeah.
It was like an end of the world film.
Yeah, it
All
was.
Race Against Time.
Yeah, something
And you
like
guys
that.
won Best School.
Yeah, we won Best School in
Yeah,
Wellington and
I
then the
totally
national
remember that
one.
film.
So that was kind of whoa. So yeah, after that, I just, loved it. So keep going.
Awesome. And so what kind of role, like what do you love about making films, and what's the role that you're sort of gravitating towards, especially in your 48-hour teams?
So I have done a bit of everything really, like starting off making films, I would edit, I'd produce, I'd sort of tap into every sort of sphere, but I've sort of found myself leaning towards writing and directing. Really love the storytelling aspect of it. I absolutely love writing. It's like my favourite thing to do. So writer, director, but if I need to help producing, I'll do that. But I try not to, and try to stay clear of everything else so I can really focus in on the story. So writing, directing is where I'm at.
Awesome. And so I guess you've probably refined your 48-hour process, so we can talk about how you do 48 hours now, but let's stay back in high school. So what advice would you give your high school self, or, other high school students who are listening to this podcast, hopefully, and maybe even their teachers as well?
I think looking back on my high school years in the competition, I wish I had the confidence to go out and make my own one rather than working in a big team. I think I knew back then I loved writing, and I also really loved directing, and I just wish I had pushed myself to do what I wanted to do. And I think like a lot of young people will not think they have the skills, but I think 48 hours is such an incredible opportunity to practice what you could do and like figure out what you can be making. So yeah, I'd really encourage my 14-year-old self to create your own team and direct it yourself, because you can do it, and anyone can do it, and it just takes a lot of hard work, but it's fun and it's worth it.
Cool. Yeah. One of the things that we always sort of try and encourage high school students to do is tell their own stories, don't make like a film noir where you're all dressed up as gangsters and you're old.
Yeah.
But, like tell stories about who you are in your life at the time. Have you got any story tips for high school students who are trying to think about putting their stories together?
I think, definitely tapping into what you know, and like creating films in the environments that you're in that are truthful to the environments. Like, I think a story is just going to be so much more powerful if it's from the heart and it's something that truthfully. On locations, like you are limited in high school sometimes with where you can film. So write for your location, write what you know, and create something that is going to help. Yeah, I can't articulate this word.
No, you're all good. I was just thinking how, grown-ups are all trying to find interesting locations and want to set things in schools but won't have any access. But, well, the kids have got access to schools, so you might as well take advantage of
No, totally.
that.
Yeah, 100%. Like, don't aim too crazy with locations, and don't, have a crazy plot that's not achievable. Make something within your space and within your limitations, because it will just do so much better, and it'll help the story.
So the other ingredient with school teams are all of the media teachers who, can we just do a shout out to all of them?
Yes.
Because
Miss John Louis from Wellington High School.
Well, yeah.
Awesome.
Well, the media teacher who rang me about a month ago with his 22 teams up in one school in Auckland. So
Crazy.
It's crazy. And but what advice would you have for teachers in terms of helping kids make films that are good and have an enjoyable time?
I think working with the students to make sure everyone knows the role that they're going to play in their teams, especially if you're putting students together in teams and they're not going into the weekend sure of what role they'll take. Because I vividly remember, being given a role that I didn't really want to do. So I think, maybe do some practices with the students prior to the weekend so students know what they want to be going into, because there's nothing worse than having teams that bicker. So make sure students are excited and wanting to be making the film and in the role that they want to do, which I know is going to be hard because in high school everyone wants to be a director or writer, and I think with that, just make sure it feels like a positive team before you go into it.
And I guess it's worth noting that there are so many other roles of making films,
Totally.
I think the director gets all of the glory, but actually there's so many more, if you're like a creative art department, camera, like there's all these other spaces to really get involved.
So many. And like, it's such a great opportunity to try different parts of filmmaking. Like, I believe I helped as an editor in one of the high school teams that I was in, and then also helped producing. And like, you got to try out stuff and figure out what you love. And it is a really good time to do that. So, yeah.
Cool. Oh, no, that's all awesome advice. Well, let's talk about your films and your 48 Hours team. So, obviously, how many times have you done 48 Hours now?
It's between 5 and 6.
Okay, so quite a few.
Quite a few now, yeah.
You've probably got some kind of a bit of a process down.
Yes.
Like, could you tell us, because everyone does it differently, and that's fantastic, and I reckon that's one of the great things about 48 Hours is there actually isn't a rule about how to make a film.
Yep.
So how do you make a film? How does your team make the film in 48 Hours?
Honestly, it changes every year, but the processes for the last, I'd say, 3 years have been pretty similar. So I have a co-writer. Her name's Neve Hopman. She's awesome. Her and I, we share the same cousins. So I feel like we have a very, like, we've got the same brains, and like we jump off each other really well. So we found a really awesome flow when we write together. So we've got that locked in, and then obviously we write on the Friday night, and then we aim to be starting shooting at around 7 a.m. on the Saturday.
And how do you, what does your Friday night look like? Like, is it the whole team together? Is it just you guys? Like, what's your guys' sort of process?
So last year and the year before, what we'd done is Neve and I would go off to my bedroom, we'd have dinner, and we'd write for about 2 hours. And then last year it took us 45 minutes and we had a complete script. It was crazy. The year before it would have been, midnight by the time that we had an idea. So it changes every year. But last year, since we had a script so fast, created the shot list quite quickly. We do tend to prep our gear so it's ready. So on the Friday, we're not like, oh no, we don't have these batteries, So we make sure that we have everything we need so it can go as smooth as possible. And I think it's really important so you're not super stressed. But so everything was prepped. We had maybe about 4 or 5 of the team. We had the AD, we had DOP, 2 writers, producer, and a few others there. So we knew the scheduling for the next day.
You're quite a big team, right?
Yeah, last year was massive. We had about 35.
Oh, wow, that's huge. That's a real huge team.
It was pretty crazy.
Was it chaos with a big team? Or pros and cons?
I think because we had finished the script so early, it gave us enough time to really prep for the day. But still then, you never prep enough. So it did get a bit chaotic and the day ran a little bit longer than we'd hoped. But we got what we needed.
Are we talking 10 hours, 20 hours?
It would have been 7 a.m. to about 9 p.m.
Yeah, so that's not too bad.
Not too
that's
crazy.
Right.
It was one location as well. We had a church and a community hall, and they were connected. So, and there was a kitchen and everything. So we were able to just be there in the space, and it was in Seatoon, so it was really close to everyone.
How did you prep that? Did you get the location in advance and you were like, we've got this cool space and we're going to write our script around that location?
Yeah, so I often, before 48, choose a location and make sure that it's accessible for everyone and the team feels comfortable. So we had booked that prior, so it's easier. That was the first year that we had done that, and I think it definitely changed the way we wrote because we had to write for this location. But I think for me and Neve, it gave us sort of a sense of security going into our writing that we're okay, we're kind of limited, but we can make it work.
It's kind of like adding another self-imposed element,
Yeah,
totally. That's one of the limitations you need to sort of include.
Yeah, I guess in a way it definitely does limit you, but also I think looking at previous years, we've always been oh my gosh, we could film anywhere, so we can write anything. And it does condense what you can do down in a way that helps the writing.
Sometimes having every choice is not, it's I could do anything, and then people get a bit paralysed, and actually having those kind of okay, the box is here, this is what I've got to work in.
Exactly. So I think for me it's easier. So that's what we had done last year. And then, woke up next morning, went straight to the hall, shot all of the hall scenes, and then we shot all of the church scenes. And then, took the hard drive home straight into the edit.
Yeah, how does your post work?
So
what's your kind of, with 30 people, have you sort of got a team or?
No, for posts last year we had, so we set up in my living room at home. We had 3 desks. We had edit, colour grade and sound.
Ooh, fancy.
Yeah, so we were pretty everyone brought their computers over to my house. We made sure it was all plugged in so we could all be in the same space. I go straight to sleep.
Sorry, can you just reiterate that? You bought your stuff and you set it up and you tested your workflow.
Yes, tested workflow first just to make sure it was okay, although we hadn't made sure we were all on the right DaVinci Resolve. So did create a few problems on the Sunday. So testing workflow is super important for high school teams. Make sure that you know what you're doing and going into, because edit is, I'd say, the most important component.
It's kind of interesting with doing post-production where you're breaking it out to do a colour grade and a sound mix, because that can often be more efficient, but then it's more technically complicated.
Yeah.
So I suppose that's sort of something that I guess you'd want to plan in advance.
Totally. And I think as well, we have had so much practice now doing 48, and we're all people working in the industry, so that's why it's easier for us to have this workflow and know, our editor is an editor and a full-time editor. So it's a very different workflow to what I would have had in the early days. But I think it's still definitely achievable for everyone to do.
DaVinci Resolve's a free download.
Exactly.
Now.
Yeah.
I was talking to my friend's 15-year-old son. I was like, download DaVinci Resolve for free.
Yeah.
Learn how to edit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's awesome. There's so many tutorials online. You can teach yourself. You just, gotta get out there and do it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Great. So I've only got a couple more questions. I think one of the things I wanted to talk a bit about was your film. So everyone's always like, how do I win 48 hours? That's kind of the big question, right?
Yep.
And lots of people are like, you're going to make a comedy to win 48 hours. You've got to make a skit with a twist to win 48 hours. There's sort of all these kind of ideas people have about the types of films which make it into the finals.
Yeah.
And increasingly in the last few years, we've seen a much broader, wider range of types of storytelling that people are turning up with at a really kind of high level, which is really exciting.
Yep.
And you're one of the people whose films aren't a cute, tight skit. They're much more, I suppose, esoteric or abstract. And I suppose, you can really sort of see your voice kind of starting to happen when you watch them. Do you want to sort of talk a bit about being brave and actually just making the film you want to make, not the film you think you should make? Yeah,
actually for me it's been a really interesting process going into 48 hours, because I've always believed that to win 48 it needs to be a skit. So I don't know, I've definitely struggled when writing, because I write what I want to write, and then I have moments where I'm like, okay, well, this isn't going to land. I vividly remember sitting in the audience for the Wellington Finals in high school being like, okay, I know what it takes to do well, and it's a very specific type of film, but that's not the type of filmmaker I am at all. So I've kind of had to refresh my brain coming into a 48-hour space and know that I really just love metaphors and art, and I studied art history, so I want my films to feel like a Renaissance painting. So when I write, I just write whatever, and we just make whatever it is, and I'm not going to try tailor it, because I feel like the films that I love best are the ones that I feel have a lot of soul in it. So it's a pretty unique way of making films for 48, but I think it's starting to shift, because a lot more people are just creating really beautiful pieces of art, and I don't think I'll ever change my style of filmmaking. Just love to make pretty films.
No, that's awesome. I mean, I think what we've sort of noticed is it's a lot easier to make a good comedy in a short period of time, because you're not sort of dealing with more complicated, sophisticated kind of ideas that sometimes, you know, actually do need sort of development time to really make sure that they kind of land with an audience. But we definitely, I think in the last few years, we've noticed a lot more teams turning up with films that, you know, deal with state abuse or, you know, archival kind of narratives, or, you know, there's all these kind of really interesting things that people are exploring, and we're really interested for people to do that. You know?
Awesome. No, totally. I think people should just make what they feel and like what they love. Don't come into the mindset of like, you know, you're not in it to win it, you're in it to make something beautiful and make something that you love.
Awesome. So I've got one last question, and that's really around and I suppose it sort of feeds on, you know, you made these films that you love, they've been doing really well in the competition, and that's fantastic. But also, what do you do with them afterwards, and how's that kind of helped your career? I'm just thinking, is it comic that went off to festivals and things? Because we sort of see everyone, they make all these beautiful films, and we're trying to encourage people to go and actually like go show them in other spaces, because there's lots of opportunities out there.
Totally. Like I am a big believer in, you get the film in on the weekend, you have it done. That's a film that will play in 48, but you can do so much more with your film. I, every year, love to re-edit. I love to do a cut that's not below 5 minutes. Yeah, a few years rejig the colour grade, fix all the sound issues, just, get it polished. And then I want the film to have a life of its own as well. So really, like, I'll send it off to festivals. If they get in, they get in. If they don't, they don't. But yeah, comic.
And where do you find festivals?
On Film Freeway. So it's hard to know which festivals are true and not on that website. So yeah, quite a bit of research to know what ones actually screen the films. But comic was sent to quite a few sort of female-led festivals around the world, which were really cool, and surfaced on some online platforms, lived on Mubi for a bit, which was really cool.
Awesome.
But yeah, since then I've also been like, comic was an idea that I'd had for a while, and yeah, since that film, been developing it into something else. So yeah, the idea that we made in 48 has become a lot more now, which is really cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Shall we finish up with, if there's like one key thing you would tell teams to do or encourage teams to do in this year's competition, what would it be? You can have two things if you can't think of one.
Okay.
Sorry.
I think, my two pieces of advice would be, one practical would be prep your gear, know what roles you're going to go into, and be prepared, one. Two would be create something that you know and love, and don't create something that you can't relate to. Yeah.
Awesome. Hey, well, thank you, Molly.
Thank you for having me.
Best of luck in this year's competition.
Thank you.
You know, I hopefully we'll see you on the big screen if everything goes well, but I'm sure that will still be a spectacular experience anyway.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.